Hey everyone! I'm still getting a little set up here. Hey there! Hi Pam! How are you guys? So we're actually in a different part of my house today. We are in the front room, which I have dubbed the library because it will be a library at some point. Boyfriend has promised to make me bookshelves, so this is my sad one little shelf of books. I don't know if you can see here. The rest, I have about 30 boxes of books in storage, so my dream is to have wall to wall at some point. So, how's everyone doing? Did y'all survive finals and the semester's over? And as great as it was an interesting semester. Oh, thank you. Yes, I was going to talk about that today. That's from Bali. So we'll talk about Bali today. And you can get, I've even seen them, they're at Target right now. So now it's become mainstream. But I got this one because it had this butterfly decoupage on it. And then of course, check out the interior. So yeah. Hi Kim, good to see you. So yeah, there we go. All right, Alexa, stop. Okay. So I thought since we can't really travel right now with the quarantine and everything, even though of course ticket prices are so cheap and I'm just like, why? Let's just go someplace, I'll risk it. We thought, well, let's at least share some places that you can dream of, because we have noticed that once you actually travel, it gives you something to look forward to. And if you start planning already ahead, like, okay, in 5 years I want to make sure I go to this country, I go to that country, or next year, or 6 months, that really does help a lot with your mental health. And I'm beginning to think there's a reason why a lot of professors travel, for that very reason. So a lot of us, we just love to visit other countries. And so I want to make sure that you have that as part of your journey as a student. I certainly traveled when I was a student, and it is possible to travel inexpensively, on the cheap. So I'll share a little bit of that with you. And we have a couple of other guests that we're going to try and join on the live feed. So we have, remember Professor Pam, remember the fried rice? She's going to join us and talk about Hong Kong and Singapore and all the food, yes. And then we have Professor Pravina. She's a math teacher, and she's going to jump on here in just a little bit, and we'll talk about India. So yes, and I'm going to talk about Vietnam. And I don't know if you noticed, I am wearing, oops, as my thing falls over, I had this custom made in in Vietnam. It's actually 100% silk. And one of the great things about it, if you travel to Asia, you can get things custom made. So guys, if you want to have a suit made, they will measure you at a tailor shop, and then within less than a day, or give them about a day, boom, brand new suit. So in Asia, tailoring is very inexpensive, cheaper labor, and you can get everything fit. And so there, it's all about custom-made clothes. It's not about trying on clothes in a store. You get them tailored fit. So I'm glad it still fits. I actually have not had a chance to wear it yet. And then I'm sure I'm gaining my COVID-15, so I've got to start working out again. Yes, and you have to haggle, and I'm the worst at it, but I was with people that were very good at it, including Professor Marion Lefeld. She was genius at it. And so I had this made, and it's actually 100% silk. Vietnam actually does produce their own silks. The town we were in called Hoi An, it's a touristy town, but at one point it was actually occupied by the Japanese. And so there's kind of this interesting mix of Japanese influence, there's a little bit of Chinese influence, it's very international, very European forward as well. And so they actually have silk farms, and we went and did a tour and saw the silks. So I actually got to pick this fabric, and I loved it because it's red, but it's a little bit shimmery. They take your measurements, and then the ladies delivered it to the hotel. And let me tell you, I think I spent less than $30 on the tailoring. I had to buy the fabric myself. The fabric was less than $100. So very inexpensive. Oh, and Pam went to Hoi An as well. That's wonderful. That's so cool. So we'll see if Pravina is going to jump on here. I'm not sure. Do I wait for an invite? No. Let's see. That's not it. If not, then I'll just start talking about. I'll just start talking about Vietnam. Okay. Pam, can you text her? Do you have Pravina's number and see if she has everything she needs to jump on? There's Sonia. Hi, Sonia. Good to see you. So, like I said, if you're a student, and I know many of my students are of Latin American descent, and you travel to Mexico, you travel to South America, but you also want to, at some point, travel to Europe. You want to make the trip to Asia. There are just so many incredible things to see, and traveling really does open up your perspective. It teaches you a lot of life lessons. Hey, Marco, good to see you. You learn patience. You learn how to talk about problem solving. You are thrown into situations like, say, you miss your train because you can't read the sign. You learn how to navigate. And honestly, traveling for me as a woman alone taught me a lot of independence. I was always independent growing up, but it teaches you self-reliance, and to be wary of strangers and to be mindful of who can I trust and who is trying to take advantage of me. And honestly, my favorite thing in the world, and this was before we had, Google Maps and internet and all of that, is I would go to a country, I'd get myself a little travel book, and I'd look at a map, I'd go to a city, and I would just wander the city and figure out the maps, to figure out the metro system, or their train system. For me, that was always a victory. So when I go to Paris, I know how to do the metro there. I know how to do the London Underground. I know how to do the Singapore. And yeah, it does. You develop street smarts. You learn how not to get taken advantage of and pickpocketed. Talk about sexual harassment as a woman. So I definitely encourage, it's one thing to go to a country, and it's another to have to, be self-reliant and trust yourself. So I think Professor Pravina is about to jump on. She's connecting. There we are. Hi,
Hey,
Pravina. How
hey
are
Michelle,
you?
how are you?
Good to see you. Let's see, you're a little blurrier. Can you check your
Um,
camera lens if it's a little...
yes, I will.
Okay. That or you have an amazing filter on your phone that I don't have.
Okay, this is better. I
There
turned
you
off
go,
the
perfect.
light.
Wonderful. Okay. So we're going to have Professor Pravina go first. And why don't you introduce yourself, tell them what you do at Richland, and then, whatever you want to share about traveling to India.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm really glad to join you on this Instagram live. My name is Pravina Dayaniti and I teach mathematics at Richland College. And I'm very happy to be part of the ALAS Student Club. Today, we are going to talk about some of the most famous travel experiences in India. I'll start off with the Taj Mahal. I'm sure everyone has heard about the Taj Mahal. I have over here pictures. I have a huge book up here. Let's see if you can see it, of what the Taj Mahal looks like. These are all photos from a book I have. So this
Oh,
is what
yes.
it looks like when you enter. And the best way to travel to this monument, it's in Agra, which is in Rajasthan in India. It's about 4 hours from Delhi, which is the capital of India. And we experienced when we went that there were a lot of what were called dabas, which serve homemade Indian food along the route. And they were open 24/7 for anyone who wanted to grab a bite before or during their journey. We were told that the best time to visit the Taj Mahal is either early in the morning or late in the evening. So we'll talk a little bit now about the Taj Mahal. Um the Taj Mahal was, let's see over here. The Taj Mahal was built in the 1600s. It took about 15 years to build, and it's a memory monument that the King Shah Jahan made for his wife, who passed away in 1632. So it took about 20 years to build. It's a white, it's a slightly off-white marble structure, and it's surrounded by trees on all sides, and the pathways are of red stone. So if you look at this picture over here, you will notice that the pathways are made of red stone. So they say that Mumtaz Mahal, in whose memory this was built, was, unlike many of the women of her times, was a very a politically savvy woman, and um, she helped her husband in military endeavors. She would review documents, official documents, and she was very much part of the ruling of the kingdom, as she was in the other aspects of being a queen. Um, there is behind the Taj Mahal. If you see this picture over here, behind the Taj Mahal, there runs a river, and on a more romantic note, it's said that the king spent about a year or two when he was dying, just watching the Taj Mahal. It's a beautiful structure, and it's made of. I'm not sure if I can zoom that close, but the inscriptions here are mainly of the Quran, and there are also some decorative patterns, and there are also patterns of trees and flowers. It's They say that the inscriptions of the Quran are high and low, meaning they might be at your eye level, they may be a little bit over your eye level, or much higher than what you can see, but they're all made in such a way that everything appears to be of the same size. It's a beautiful tourist attraction. Again, one of the most sought after in India. Um, I wish I had known that we should wear bright clothes to take a photograph there, because bright clothes really pop out in the white background behind you. We went at a time when it was the peak of summer, and we wanted our clothes to be as light colored as possible. It was a very beautiful experience, because it was we've just visited once, but I'm sure we will. It's a very lovely experience. Some of the things that are unique are that there are some dress codes that is not strictly enforced all the time, but it's expected that everyone covers their shoulders and their knees. Um, and then there's not many. You can take a camera with you, but things things like a backpack, anything bulkier than a small purse are usually not allowed inside. And of course, this monument has a very long walk from where you park your car. So it's a good idea to just take what you need inside. Photography is allowed. This structure still has the tomb of the queen Mumtaz Mahal, and her husband who built the structure. His name is King Shah Jahan. Um, they also say that the structure changes color throughout the day. In the early morning, it has a golden appearance, and then around noon, it turns to almost bright white, and towards the evening, it changes a brownish red hue during the sunset. If you were to go during the sunrise or the sunset, we are able to see the gems that are placed inside while they built. It's called inlays. And so they've inlaid the structure with gems and some precious stones, and those are visible only during the sunrise and the sunset. The full moon day is the best time to go to the Taj Mahal. So that's one of the tourist attractions in the north of India. Now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to show you another tourist attraction, and this is in the south of India. This is called the Big Temple, and this is a 1,000-year-old structure. If you look at the top of this building, you'll see that there is a circular dome, and the circular dome, I did the conversion today, it weighs about 160,000 pounds. Uh, uh, let's take a second to think about getting 160,000 pounds of stone up this huge structure 1,000 years back. That's an engineering marvel in itself. This day, I wanted to share a little bit about this temple because this is the temple which has the origins of several forms of art and dance that are prevalent in India. And I want to share another picture, another doll here that I have.
Oh,
These are called dancing dolls. And if you notice, this is a terracotta doll of a woman dancing. And in Indian dance, there is a form where the dancers learn to just shake their heads without shaking their shoulders. So all I do is I give a light tilt over here, and
there you go.
and this will dance.
Cute.
So and so will this man here. It's set up a little bit differently, but if you take a look here,
There she goes. Yeah,
so all I did was give it a little tilt. So it's called a shaking head doll. And so they assemble different pieces and they put them together. So these can be separated out, and then they are assembled one on top of the other this way. They say that inside this temple, if this is about 30,000 square feet of space inside this temple, and there's a lot of architectural wonders, and there's also quite a bit of detail in all of the stone carvings. Everything here is made of stone and granite. So this is the second piece of tourist attraction that I wanted to share with you all.
Okay. So, Pravina, I think you need to turn your camera the other way because there you go. Now we can see it. Okay, that's gorgeous. So there were a couple of questions from the audience. One is it safe for foreigners to eat the street foods in India? Would you recommend that?
It is safe to eat food, but some of the food tends to be spicy. So
Yeah.
I would go in for, if you are a spice lover, yes, go ahead and eat. I would not recommend drinking locally available water, though. I would recommend that you drink bottled water, but the food for the most part is fully cooked. We don't have much raw food, so it can be eaten, but it's a spice level that you have to keep in mind.
Right.
Some of the food might sometimes be very spicy for someone, and for others, they may be able to take it.
Yeah, for me, I couldn't handle it, but I know my boyfriend, he could handle it. Okay. And then there was one other question. Someone asked if they wanted to travel to India, but they only had a chance to visit one city, where would be a good place for them to go or to start their journey of India?
I would recommend going to Delhi, the capital of
Delhi.
India.
Okay.
Agra is pretty close, it's about 4 hours, but Delhi mixes some of the architecture from ancient India and from modern India, and there's a lot of history of India that you can see in Delhi.
Okay. Great. All right. Were there anything else you wanted to share about India?
These were the two pieces that I
The
wanted
two.
to share about.
Okay. All right. And do you have family there? Do you travel to see anyone that lives there?
Yes, most of our family lives there. We try and travel at least once a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's pretty much during the summer when we have our summer break.
Oh, nice. Now
Yeah.
I know, like my boyfriend's mom, when she goes, she visits a lot of temples and makes offerings. What are some of the things that you do when you visit family there?
Yeah, that's making offerings. That's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
There is we By the time we spend time with our relatives and friends, we are out of time. So it's more
Yeah.
reconnecting with our people. That's
With
the focus. Yeah,
okay. And what part of India are you from?
I'm from South India.
South India. Okay. What state or what city?
So this is Tamil Nadu, and the city is Chennai, which is the capital of Tamil
Chennai.
Nadu.
Okay.
Yes.
I had a friend that had a wedding, and they kept saying it was a Chennai wedding.
Uh-huh.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing a couple of sites and your experiences with India. I think we're going to jump to the next guest, so I'm going to log you off, and then you're welcome to join back in
Thank
through.
you, Michelle. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to have her out, and then so Professor Pam is going to hop on here in just a minute. So yeah, if you get a chance, I still have not done a trip to India just yet. But it's one of those things where if you go to these countries, if you can go with someone that is from that country, you really get a different experience because you get to see kind of how they grew up and places they, uh, yeah, go ahead and try, Pam. Go ahead and try and log in. So you can get a sense of a different, beyond the touristy places. So when I like to go and do the tourist thing. Like if I go first time I went to France, I went to Paris, did the whole tourist thing, saw the Eiffel Tower, all this. But then when I go, I visit friends or I see people I know, and it's a very different experience. Okay, so now we're going to have um, Professor Pam join us, and she's going to talk about Hong Kong and a little bit on Singapore as well. So hopefully the connection will work. And there you are!
Hi!
I hope you're not driving.
Oh no, my
Just
husband is
kidding.
driving.
Hi, how are you? That would have been like, that's not safe.
And then my dog's in the back
I
seat.
know. I saw your post earlier and she gave you kisses. Oh, she's tired.
Yes.
Oh, what is your puppy's name?
Sammy?
Tammy. Oh,
Yeah.
so cute. Yeah, mine came by earlier just to see what was going on, and then she went upstairs. So,
Yeah, they're
like,
completely disinterested in us
yeah, she's
either.
like, no, no food. So, okay. All right. So I appreciate you doing this. I know you're taking a few days off, but thank you so much for checking in with us.
Yeah, of course. We're actually traveling safely, quarantine travel. We're just heading to the lake.
Oh, good. Okay.
Social
Nice.
distancing still.
Yeah. But anything to social distance away from your work email is always good. So,
Yes. Yes. Well, hopefully the connection stays.
sure.
Let me know. Just shoot me a text if I start breaking up. And
Okay. Okay.
but yeah, so I don't have
Just
photos or anything because I'm in the car. I can show you the landscape of Missouri. well,
I
well,
do have one prop.
oh
I do
yeah.
have one prop for you for Hong Kong. Because I did go to the Hong Kong airport when I was on my way to Vietnam, and look what I picked up.
Oh my
And I
gosh,
totally forgot I had
yes.
it. Yeah.
An Elle
So I
magazine.
love getting fashion magazines from other countries.
Yes.
So, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that once again, the light skin.
Yes. European, like the bridges. are very
Very.
valuable. Double eyelids.
Yes, and then this one too,
Oh,
Marie Claire.
wow. Yes.
Yeah.
She's
So.
got like a goth look going on.
Yeah, yeah, and it came with a free little bag. That's why I got it.
Oh,
It
nice.
was like a free.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular thing in Hong Kong. When you go into
Oh.
the 7-Elevens to buy stuff, they give like little knickknacks.
Oh my god! And I saw that, and I'm like, they had me. So
Yeah.
that was like the first, and I still have it. I use it to store stuff, and yeah, you give me a free purse, I am all in. so,
That's awesome.
so that's all I have from Hong Kong. So
Well, I know I sent you my whole write up, but my husband was saying not to get into too much of the nitty gritty and just to kind of share my experience. So for those on here who don't know, my family, my mom and dad are actually from Hong Kong. And I did want to share that I think it's really interesting when you talk about Chinese people, not everyone that's Chinese identifies as a China, like from China Chinese, or as we say, like from mainland China, because of immigration and like generations of Chinese people living in other countries for so long.
yeah.
So there are Chinese Americans, of course. There are a lot of big Chinese population in Toronto and Vancouver, Canada. You've got a lot of Chinese in Singapore, which we've chatted about a little bit.
Yeah.
Our travels to Singapore, and then even though there's a big Chinese population in Mexico too.
There is.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, I'm blocking my husband from making the turn. Let me put my hand away.
Please don't trash during the live feed. That would not look good for us.
So my parents are from Hong Kong, and Hong Kong has a unique history. It was a British territory. It was leased by the British from the 1800s, mid 1800s into 1997. So the Chinese people there really don't identify with mainland China folks, and very similar to Taiwan, they're actually very resistant to being identified as like Chinese folks from Chinese. I personally don't have that kind of thinking because I've grown up here, so it doesn't really matter to me. I don't have that history and that like contention with China, but if you talk to someone like in my mom's generation, they will tell you like I'm Chinese, but I'm from Hong Kong, which I find interesting, and just shows you like how politics and countries' relations play through.
Like when you meet someone from Iran and they'll say, "No, I'm Persian." Iran, and interesting.
Yeah, so Hong Kong is really one of those Asian territories, areas. It's not really a country because it's technically now part of China, but it has its own. It governs itself, but it's still technically a part of China now, which is why you've probably seen some of the protests and things happening. Yes. There's a lot of things going on with that. We won't get into that. We'll keep it light.
That's the deep dive he was talking about. That's for a future discussion.
Yeah. But if you do visit anywhere in Asia, I would really recommend starting off with Hong Kong or even Singapore. But Hong Kong's just, everyone speaks English there for the most part.
Yes.
Everything is in English. So the public transportation is super easy to navigate, super clean. You get a little like transportation card that has an RFID chip in it. You put some money in there. You can even go to the 7-Elevens and use it and buy things.
Right.
And you can go anywhere with that. And yeah, it's just one of those cities that's great to visit. It's got one of the most popular skylines. I think like top 5 in the world.
Yes.
So if you go, you have to visit Victoria Peak. It's up on the mountain, and go during sunset, right before sunset. You can actually make a reservation at one of the restaurants up there, but they have like a minimum if you want to sit by the glass window to witness the sunset and watch the skyline transform from day to night.
Yes.
but it's gorgeous there. So Victoria Peak is definitely somewhere to visit. There's also a giant Buddha on top of one of the mountains.
Yes, I wanted to go see that. We didn't have enough time, but yes.
Yeah, so that it is a trek because you have to take the cable cars up, so you need like several hours.
All right, Sonia is saying that Dallas really has the #1 skyline. Oh, I kind of lean towards Sonia, but I'll have to go to Hong Kong to verify.
Oh, she said, just kidding. Just kidding. I don't know.
No, it's funny.
I mean, I've never really. Every time I think of the Dallas skyline, I think of the big round, the Globe building.
The Reunion Tower. Have you
Yes,
been? You have
yes.
to go.
No, I guess I do have to visit sometime.
You
But I
cannot
have
call
my-
yourself a Dallas site, a Texan, until you have gone and had dinner and it rotates. I've been to
Oh.
many an event there.
All right, noted. That's what
See
I'll
what you
have to do
started,
once this quarantine-
Sonia? Sonia always just stirs up trouble. So I'm just kidding.
Well,
So you went
so that
to the Big Buddha, you were saying? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
oh no, it's good. Yeah, Big Buddha. You take the cable cars up, and again, you get a great view of Hong Kong. You can even pay extra to get the cable car with the glass bottom. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the glass bottom, but we did it just so
okay.
It's very high up. So
Yes.
if you're scared of heights, don't do the glass bottom. Let's see, what else was there that I wanted to share? And then there's a lot of expats that live in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So there's this one area called Stanley, and you can go there, and it's up against the water. There's like restaurants that face the water. There's a little kind of like bazaar market area you can walk through. All the stuff there is tourist pricing, so it's very
Okay. You're
go and
now
check
just a
that
little
out. And of
bit.
course,
You're stalling just a little bit. Okay, there you go.
oh, I think because
There
we're
you go.
heading towards the and then for the most part, I would say when you go to Hong Kong, eat the food.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes.
Dim sum is great. It's like the Chinese version of tapas.
Yes. Yes.
And unfortunately, there isn't a good dim sum spot in Dallas. We visited two.
Actually, there is. I have to disagree. Which one are you thinking?
Which
that's
one?
not good?
So
the two-story one on Beltline and Richardson? I can't think of the name.
Kieran?
Yeah, Kieran Court. You don't like Kieran? Oh no, I was telling my boyfriend he may have to throw down and disagree. Okay,
I'll
well
tell you
then,
what,
as close as we can get to.
We'll have to take a trip to
Okay.
if you're not looking to leave the country.
I'm sure it's nothing like the real
to get
thing.
some good-
Okay.
You should check out the.
Yes, we'll
the
have to
dim
do a
sum if you're not
social
looking
event
to-
with the club.
Yeah. The dim sum in California is pretty on par. If you're not looking to go all the way across the world. Yeah. So.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because my husband of course we've been to Hong Kong, we've gotten dim sum in California. So when we got here and we went and got dim sum, he was like at Kieran Court, he was like, "This is not good at all." And I was like, "Wow, suddenly you're the dim sum expert."
Oh, how fun. Okay, well, yeah, if you've had it better somewhere else, that's true. I like it. I mean,
It's good. It's good. It's not bad. It's just it's not like the dim sum that I don't know, it's different, I guess. It's like, like Tex-Mex is good, but I wouldn't call it Mexican food.
Right.
It's like that. Yeah.
But then, I've had better Asian food in Houston.
Yes.
So it's, so I'd probably, if I were going to try dim sum locally, I'd maybe in Houston first.
Yeah. Houston has a bigger Cantonese population, I think.
That they do. Yeah. So, okay. Fair point.
But the Vietnamese food here is very good because of our Vietnamese
Yeah.
population. So,
Yes, we have discovered Saigon Block, which is over closer to Richland,
oh,
and
nice.
they do a whole fish, a catfish that they
Oh,
fry. It is phenomenal. I have to take you and Joan and whoever else wants to go. It is amazing.
oh my gosh, I'm down.
Yes.
Give me any kind of fried fish and I'll eat it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And they even debone it for you tableside,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, when you go and it's just full of just packs. You like if you go at certain times at night, forget it. But we could probably
Oh,
get in and try it. So
that sounds amazing. Oh, I'm ready for some good food after this course.
exactly. And if anyone has any questions for Pam about Hong Kong or traveling to Asia, you know. Oh my gosh, Joan looked it up. 4.3 stars on Google. Of course she looked it up.
Are we talking about Kieran Court?
For Kieran Court, I think so. So,
Oh, my husband's chiming in
oh
now.
well.
Oh, he's well.
But
Look, we'll
I
all be
think there is
determined.
another place we discovered.
Uh huh.
There's another dim sum place we discovered in Plano. I'll have to remember. It's a little bit newer, and it was actually pretty good too.
Oh, well, I'm
So,
always down for a tour of dim sum places.
okay, I'll find out from him, and then they can meet and commiserate about being married, about being with teachers. Oh, Saigon Block has 4. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay. But it is really good. I've had a lot of Vietnamese around the area.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
so Joan asked, how much money do we need to spend in Hong Kong? The
That's a
most
good.
expensive thing you're going to spend your money on in Hong Kong is the hotel. Of course, the ticket there, it'll easily cost you upwards of over 1,000 if you're going during high season. And then
Mm-hmm.
hotels are pretty expensive because it's a big city. It is the most densely populated city I think I read in the world.
Oh,
Correct
wow.
me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, the homeless population, not homeless, but the I forget what you call it. There are these. If you Google it, you'll find it. There are these apartments that have like 50 people living in them, like small apartments,
Oh,
and
yeah.
basically everyone.
I've seen.
Yeah, yeah, they've done
Wow.
documentaries about it. It's pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just so dense and expensive there. But public transportation is really inexpensive. It's a couple of cents to go because everybody uses it. Nobody drives really a car.
Right.
So that's pretty simple. If you're not really looking to buy stuff, the food can be really inexpensive. Like if you eat at the local places, it can cost you upwards of like under $10 a meal. So it's not too pricey there.
Okay. And then we have a question. Are there any social norms we should be aware of when we
Um,
go?
so I will tell you that I've been going to Hong Kong since I was a little girl, once every other year, if not once every 3 years, and the norms have changed a lot. So when Hong Kong was handed back over to China in 1997, and then more recently in the early 2000s, there was a large influx of Chinese nationals that moved over into Hong Kong, and that really changed the culture a little bit. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some space issues now. I think just because it became more densely populated. So if you're on the subway or taking public transportation and people are pushing up against you, that's just something that happens, especially during rush hour. Just
Yeah.
pickpocketing is in certain districts of Hong Kong is common. So just keep your purse and stuff in front of you, like any big city, though.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Just like Mexico City and Paris and.
exactly. So just if you but for the most part, I would say it's a very safe city. I would feel more comfortable walking the streets of Hong Kong at night than I would walking um, any other city in the States at night, just
Okay.
because there's always someone on the street, so
Yeah,
you'll feel pretty safe.
that's true.
Uh, Yes, Joan, you can get around without knowing the language because everything is in English because it was a British territory for so long. So you'll see Chinese writing and then you'll see the English writing underneath
And
too.
the thing I noticed, especially in Vietnam, with the younger kids, they're being taught English, from the get-go. They
Yeah.
want to come and speak English with you. So we've
Yeah.
seen that a lot in Vietnam. They're like, "Hi, hello, how are you?" And now I'm just like, "Hi, I'm fine." They want to
Yeah.
practice their English with you.
Yeah.
So, and I even found that, like in Europe, if I was in a place where, like if I were in a smaller town, I would look for a younger person because more than likely they had maybe some English. And yeah, it's really becoming more
Yeah.
of a universal.
Yeah. In Hong Kong, it's interesting. Older folks, like my parents' generation, they were all taught English mandatorily in school,
Wow,
right?
wow.
Because so my mom actually reads and writes English pretty well. She just doesn't speak it, or and she has a hearing problem. So if you speak too fast or certain pitches, she can't hear. But if you type it to her, she can understand for the most part what you're saying. Oh, that's hilarious. Um, and then, but now, so after it was handed over back to China, the English curriculum was taken out and everyone learned Mandarin. So depending on what generation you're talking to, they may or may not have formally learned English.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
Wow.
business is conducted in English. It's an international city, so most people
Right.
speak enough of it.
I'm curious, how different is Mandarin to Cantonese? Because you said you spoke Cantonese.
It's interesting. I think people who speak Cantonese can figure out Mandarin, but it doesn't work in reverse because Mandarin has now. I'm not. I've never studied it formally, so I'm not 100% sure. So maybe someone on here can correct me if I'm wrong. But Mandarin has 4 tones, and
Oh.
Cantonese has, I believe, either 7 or 9. So I can understand. I can make out most Mandarin words. Like I've been to parts of China, Beijing, Shanghai. My dad worked in Shanghai for a number of years, and I can get around just fine.
Mhm.
And my husband and I actually were recently in Beijing before this whole COVID thing hit, and we got lost, and I was able to talk to the locals and
Oh,
have
very
enough
cool.
Mandarin to, yeah, figure out where we're
Good for
going.
you. That was
Thanks.
like
I
me
was
with
very,
Italian. Because I had to figure out the bus system because when I went to Italy, the metro workers went on strike. And in my very bad broken Italian, I managed to figure it out because it's a similar language to Spanish. So
oh,
yeah, see,
cool.
again, I was talking to this about self-reliance and that it teaches you figure out, you problem
Yes.
solve.
Yes, that is so true. And you really learn a sense of like I think independence when you travel to different countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
just it opens your mind too, like um so the person that asked like is there any oh, Carrie's on here. She says I speak Mandarin and don't understand Cantonese at all. Yeah, our tones are really different. Like for example, if in Mandarin, and Mandarin there's different accents, so it also depends on what area of China you're from. I
Mhm.
think the Mandarin I'm most used to is Taiwanese Mandarin, actually, because a lot of my
Oh,
friends are Taiwanese. So if you said like time to eat dinner, right, in
mhm.
Mandarin it would be like 吃饭, like eat dinner, but in Cantonese it's 食飯了. So you can kind of hear like
A
it's
little bit.
yeah, a little bit.
Okay. And do they speak more Mandarin on the mainland?
Uh,
And
yes.
then more like India with lots of dialects, or are there?
Yeah, there's a lot of dialects.
Okay.
But Mandarin is the standard language. Actually, Chinese is written the same across the board. So if you can't verbally communicate, you can write and everyone will know what you're
Okay.
talking
So
about.
like the letters and everything,
The
all the
characters are,
tattoos that all the millennials get, like hot soup.
yes.
I think that happened to what Britney Spears or someone. They're like, no, that's soup. That's not happiness or something. I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Uh, yeah, so I don't know. Hong Kong, I'd say definitely give it a visit.
Absolutely.
And oh, and Mo says, what's more commonly spoken? Mandarin's more commonly spoken on mainland China, Cantonese in Hong Kong. Um, if you go to Hong Kong, you don't need a visa as an American citizen. But if you plan to hop over into China, which I would recommend you do, it's awesome. Like, why not? You're already there. You do need to
Yes,
get a China visa.
that's true. Same thing with Vietnam. You have to get a permission
Yeah.
to get a visa.
Or you can do it right away.
Oh my gosh. So sorry, my husband, he's very chismoso and he likes to chime in on things.
That's fine. We love chisme on this channel.
We should have just a chisme check-in. We actually
Yes.
went
Oh my
to
gosh.
Vietnam. We went to Vietnam with my parents to Hoi An, and I messed up on his visa and I accidentally typed in the birthday wrong, so we ended up having to pay $100 and something to get an 200
Oh
and something to get an emergency visa. It was
my
bad.
goodness.
I know. And you know from going,
Yes.
the visa is only like $15. So don't mess up on your visas, people.
Oh. Yeah. The fact that he's still bringing it up tells me he's not over it still.
Well, yeah, it was pretty bad. And then of course, when we got to Vietnam and we made the money exchange. Now, this is something I think when you're speaking of traveling smart, right, Michelle, and saying like learning street smarts, when you go to any country, my husband and my dad went up to get the money exchange and they weren't paying attention and they got ripped off by,
Oh no.
yeah.
The lady was shady.
The lady was totally being shady, but
Yeah.
anyways.
You have to look out.
Yeah. It was crazy. But so Vietnam, are you going to share with us about your
Yes.
experience?
Absolutely. So I have some props and stuff. So do you want me to have you hop off and then?
Yeah. And I'll ask you questions in the little chat box.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for doing this and
Thank you.
sharing about Hong Kong. And we could put like a little slideshow of our pictures of our travels.
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
All right. You guys have a safe trip.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Okay. There we go. All right. Now it's just me. Alrighty, so we have just enough time. I'm going to show you a little bit about Vietnam. I have a lot of my memorabilia. A lot of my photos though are still up in the cloud, so I have to organize those. But let me just show you a few things because I'm all about props. I'm actually going to reverse my camera so I can show you. So this is the front room. These are my boyfriend's Disney collectibles. They're big into Disney around here. So, and apparently these things are expensive. So he's like, be careful with my collectibles. All right, so of course, when you go to Vietnam, I wanted to show you real quick. So I don't know if you can see. So what we did is when we went as Fulbright. So there's all kinds of programs. So as students, definitely look into Fulbright. If you go as a student, you can actually go and get paid by the government to go study in a foreign country. And so it's another way to get cultural experience. And if you can travel on someone else's dime, that is the way to go. So when I graduated with my 4-year, I went to Accenture, and then that company allowed me to travel to other places. So you can actually, incorporate travel in the jobs that you look for. So I always collect little magazines and things with the Hotel Saigon Times. So as you can see, this is an English paper. There's a lot of expats that live in Vietnam, and so I would pick this up and interesting things there. The other thing that I collect when I go, of course, are magnets and postcards. So here are some beautiful images of Vietnam. Now, we did not get a chance to go here, but this is Sapa, and these are the tiered mountains, and these are rice fields. So that's where they're making lots of the, they grow so many fruits and vegetables that are the main sources of income for the country. I just love all of these little postcard images. Of course, when we think of Vietnam, and we think of these lovely temples and things like that. Let me show you some of my others. And of course, I love this one, little street markets. little bicycles. This is Hoi An, and like I said, Hoi An at one point was occupied by the Japanese. So there's lots of Japanese temples, lots of Japanese influence. If you love the sandwich banh mi originated in Hoi An. I'm sorry, this says Hanoi. This is in the north. But Hoi An is the place where it originated. We also got a chance to go to Halong Bay, which is this beautiful, like these tiny little mountain ranges in the water, little rock islands, if you will. You can take a boat cruise, and that's what we did. You can even have lunch on the boat, and they take you all around. Very humid. I lost, I think, about 10 pounds just sweating through my clothes. All of us were showering about 3 times a day. That's how much we were sweating through our clothes. And the people, I cannot say enough, and there's a lot of kind of ethnic diversity within Vietnam as well. And you talk about just a kind people, loving people. And, we have a lot of Vietnam veterans here. But in Vietnam, they have moved beyond that war. Their attitude is, we survived the Americans, we survived the French, we survived the Japanese, the Chinese, we will survive you. And so, I mean, when you go there, you can't even tell that there was even a war. I love this postcard. This is my favorite because I actually did see this live. It's all about the motorbikes, okay? And I have a really good video I'll post of us crossing the streets, and look at how they transport everything. You put everything on your motorbike. So I've seen them transporting, fish and all kinds of seafood and boxes. I mean, you can strap everything on there. I don't think you want to know where those ducks are going to end up, though. So the other thing about Vietnam is also the water buffalo. And so when Dr. Aditi Samarth, she teaches humanities here, she actually talks about the imagery and the significance of the water buffalo. They're not just an animal that's used for farming. It has in their folklore and their history, that's like a trickster character, and lots of tales and stories that you would tell to children. So they are very, very important, especially out in the rural areas. Okay, and then whenever I travel, I love to buy like street art, folk art, photographs, anything that grabs my attention. So as you can see, here is the rice fields with the conical hats, the iconic hat. I did buy a conical hat, but sadly it is in my office at Richland, which I cannot go on campus right now. So, because when I teach in class, I do a section on Vietnam and I do pass it around. But yeah, a lot of women in villages hand make those conical hats, and it's a source of income. And so, yeah, they are very touristy, but as you can see, the conical hat is very practical as well. I mean, it keeps the sun off of you. If it rains, you see a lot of people selling fruit and vegetables in the streets, and they usually have them on these baskets, or they have them tied to their bicycles. Okay, so and here is a lady wearing the traditional ao dai. And nowadays, it's mostly the students in school that wear this traditional outfit. So it is much more westernized. But when I went, of course, I had to get my outfit made as well. So I have one that they custom made along with the one I'm wearing today. Okay. And then, of course, here's another image of Hoi An, and as you can see, it's all about the lanterns, the Japanese lanterns. So you can buy silk lanterns, and at night they're just beautifully lit. So it is. It's a little touristy, but it is so gorgeous. Very European. Lots of European tourists as well. And then, of course, as you can see, we did go down the Mekong Delta, and there's floating markets, and there's the fishermen. And sadly, a lot of this is going away because a lot of the river areas now are being taken over by hotels and resorts, and focusing more on tourism. Okay, and then here's my last one here. So the water buffalo. Okay, so yeah, and the last thing I wanted to show you too is I actually bought these. They're magnets, but this is the Vietnamese money, and it's called Dong, D-O-N-G. And as you can see how there's a lot of zeros? This is how they screw up the tourists, because they'll say, oh, it's 50,000 dong, and you accidentally give them this one. and then they'll give you the wrong change. And for me, that's not very good with math. Yeah. So you have to be careful with some of those. Okay, so let me turn back my camera. So we are just about out of time with our hour, but hopefully that will inspire you. Definitely you want to travel to India, to Hong Kong, to Vietnam. We didn't get a chance to talk about Singapore, but I can do that. We've talked about that before. Bali, of course. And then, you know, I'm all about buying bags and things. And so the other thing I wanted to mention is that there are actually 54 different ethnic groups in Vietnam. And so I found this really great book that I bought. We went to a museum that honored the women of all these different cultures. And I mean, just beautiful, just costumes and different dialects that they're speaking, different regions, you know, just lovely stuff there. And so I bought these, and I was told with the intention that these are made by, you know, the people of these cultures. And then I bought this bag too, only to find out that all of this is made in China. Because my boyfriend sells these same bags in his shop on Harry Hines. So I'm a little upset, but that's not the first time that I have been deceived as a tourist. Many a time in Mexico, people tell me, oh, it's an authentic blanket. It's been made by hand. No, it was made in a shop in China. So yeah, there you go. But as I said, definitely look into travel as a student. You can do it. I went to Europe for 3 months and I did it on $20 a day. So if you can budget your meals for $20 a day, you can look at youth hostels, which is really great. So you stay kind of like summer camp. You stay in like bunk beds with other people, but it is safe and they are clean. There's showers, there's a place to store your stuff, and you meet other people from other cultures. Like you meet people from Australia, from India, from Italy, from France, and that's how you make friends. And so in my travels, you learn to kind of come out of your shell, especially if you're an introvert. You make small talk, you go out and you have fun. A lot of the youth hostels have all kinds of like game nights and social activities, and you buy a Euro pass and you can go really anywhere that you can. And there's lots of shows, especially on the Travel Channel, where you can do travels to Asia very inexpensively. And Vietnam is one of the ones that is the most cost efficient. You don't really need a lot of money to go, and I would recommend that you go within the next 5 to 10 years because pretty soon people are going to catch on and then it's going to get super expensive. So there you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed our travels today, and next week we'll finish up the last of our series on Asian Heritage Month, and I think we're going to have Professor Pam come back and do one more, maybe some Hong Kong Cantonese cooking, hopefully. And I'll probably hop on Tuesday and we'll talk about some of the things we're going to discuss over the summer and how things are moving forward with now we're transitioning to being called Dallas College. So lots of big changes, but I hope you're staying safe. I hope all of you are well. Good to see you, and I will see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.